Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. Good to see you. Loremaster Sotek, of course, as always. And today we are in for a very special treat. As, of course, we have the What's Next, the next episode of the essentially developer roundtable about the new DLC, Tides of Torment, as we do officially know the name, thanks to the teaser trailer from Skulls yesterday, which, of course, I watched live on stream with everyone. It was a really good time, and you can go watch my reaction to that if you want. It's up on the channel. But today, we have the roundtable where they're going to be talking about Norsca and some of the stuff that's going to be coming with it. It's about 25 minutes. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and hop into it. As just a warning, if they talk about anything particularly interesting or show something of note, I will probably pause to just talk a bit. So if you're annoyed by that, feel free to go watch it first, and then come back and watch this after. So if you're so inclined. So without further ado, let's get into it. You're not Steve. Where's Steve? What happened to Steve, my boy? Okay, cool. Where is Steve? Is he safe? Is he all right? Todor, yeah. Awesome. So, Team Sophia. Whew, he's been around for a hot while. Okay, so more Team Sophia. Okay, so it's all Team Sophia. So, real fast, I do want to say I am very, very excited that Team Sophia seems to have kind of been put in charge of Total War Warhammer DLC. They did some really impressive stuff with Pharaoh. Like, it wasn't a game, it wasn't for me. It's just not something that I was personally super interested in, but they did do a lot of really awesome things with the game, and really poured a lot of love into it. So I'm very, very excited to see what they're going to do with Total War Warhammer 3 stuff, and hopefully they're going to be able to really take a whack at a lot of things that the main studio either, you know, kind of hasn't had the ability to, or has tried before and just didn't feel up for doing it again. Like the siege rework, I'm really, really excited to see what Team Sophia is going to do with the siege rework. So it's great to see them on this, and yeah, let's get into it. Norsca, Norsca, Norsca. How many Charlemagnes does it take? Sail! Oh boy. Oh boy, look at him. Oh, I love how mutated he is. So, still the Faithless. Funny enough, so y'all know my DLC proposal series has been building up to this. Started with a Slenesh one, then I did a High Elf one, then I did a Monsters of Norsca one, and I have actually finished the Mortals of Norsca one, but it's currently in editing. Which, spoiler, that one has Sail the Faithless as the legendary lord. So unfortunately, this will beat my editor to the punch. But you know, it's all right. It'll be out in a couple days at the longest. But in that video, I spend I must spend at least an hour going over his lore, because Sale actually has a very, very in-depth story, despite the fact that A, it's actually unfinished, and B, it's only contained within the Termicon book. Sale entirely comes from this book. He doesn't exist outside of it, but he is arguably the main character. He honestly gets more... In a lot of ways, he gets more screen time than any other character in the book. Which is actually why the Mortals of Norsca video took so goddamn long, was that I had completely forgotten how much Sale does in the book. And so writing out his entire lore took forever. So I hope y'all are all looking forward to that video. I'm not going to wax too lyrical on him for this, because I talk about him deeply, deeply in depth on there. But here you can see he's got the Viperous staff. I assume he'll have Skull Kane's teeth somewhere on his body, probably over here. Yeah, he looks fantastic. He's very heavily mutated. As you can see, he's got the big tentacles for one arm. His head also is like really messed up, because he has like his head has mutated into like a lumpen mass that's a little bigger. And he also has a single cyclopean eye that he actually sees the ether rather than the material plane. So he's actually not very good at fighting, because he's not able to see super well. But what's really fun is that I actually love the trailer that the teaser trailer they did for Tides of Torment, which we'll get to see the full trailer presumably next month. Because they went the extra mile, which they didn't have to, of showing what Sale looked like before he mutated. And then this is modern Sale, which is, I just thought it was a really cool touch. Yeah, so we have a big caster. Mm-hmm. So something I do want to note about Sale that's actually really interesting is that A, he's actually not Norscan. He's Dolgan, which the Dolgan people are considered a like offshoot of the Kurgan. So he's not even remotely Norscan, to be honest. He's from a northern tribe of chaos. Though, I mean, you could argue that Sale might not technically be Dolgan. It's more likely that he is, but his story does start with him just kind of like appearing in the Dolgan tribe, and he sort of like inserts himself and then ends up doing like a coup to take over the tribe. It doesn't say that he was born to them. It just kind of says that he sort of just shows up one day. But it could be that he was born to the Dolgan and then he rises to power suddenly one day. But it could also be that maybe he was actually Norscan and then just like came over to the Dolgan tribe, which would have, he needed to wander like northwest through the Chaos Waste. But just a very simple thing about him is that he is an undivided character. He is not committed to any of the four gods. And of the Chaos characters, he is debatably the least Chaos worshipping. Sale doesn't really worship anybody. He doesn't offer, he offers platitudes and a lot of things that will allow him to backstab people. But he doesn't actually really care about the dark gods. He doesn't give a shit about them. The only thing Sale cares about is himself. So in some ways you could almost view him as an anti-chaos character among the Norskins, because he could not care less about the dark gods, funny enough. He uses them and he respects them as much as he absolutely has to avoid them like smiting him. But other than that, he does not give a shit about them, which is very interesting. So he's very different from your typical Warrior of Chaos characters. who tend to either be dedicated to a power or they're dedicated to at least chaos kind of as a concept. Like Sale, as long as he himself continues to grow in power, that's all that matters. Oh! Okay, that's super, like I said, I'm going to pause a lot. So that's super interesting. So in tabletop, a lot of wizards in Warhammer Fantasy had access to multiple lores of magic, but the way it would work is that you would pick one of them, and then you would generate your spells from that lore. And then you had a couple of rare characters who were exceptions, like Manfred von Karstein knew 2 whole lores of magic, for instance. You could have some characters that could generate spells from multiple lores, like Teclis, if memory serves, could, I think, pick his spells from certain lores. Kairos Fateweaver had a really weird mechanic, but Sale didn't. Sale the Faithless in tabletop was just a very straightforward. He could either take the lore of heavens or he could take the lore of shadows. So it sounds like what they're doing here is that you'll be able to pick whether you want heavens or shadow spells, which is cool. I actually think that's really, really interesting. As he mentioned, it's an experiment. So I'm curious if this is an experiment that goes well. This could very well lead to characters that have multiple lores maybe getting access to the ability to like customize their spell list instead of just getting the one that CA gives them, which would make the likes of Mazdamundi, Teclis, a lot of, you know, the legendary lords in the game that have the mixed spell lores, it would make a lot of them significantly more powerful if they had the ability to choose which spells they wanted. Even if it was like fairly, even if it was limited, it would still offer so much more customization and ability to those characters. So I'm very interested to see what they're going to do with that. Though, I will say, Sale should not be considered one of the best spellcasters in the game. In tabletop, he's only a level 3 wizard. Like, he's a decent wizard, but like in the grand scheme of Warhammer, he's kind of a bitch. Like, it's more about his gimmicks, and he's not actually that powerful. Like, he's way weaker than like Teclis, Mazdamundi, Nagash, Manfred. Like, they would mop the floor with him. So I'm really hoping they don't give him like Greater Arcane Conduit, because he's only a level 3 wizard in tabletop. He shouldn't have it. Cool. Okay. That's interesting. So that, sorry, once again, all the pauses. That is one of the things I'm really excited about Team Sophia being here. And this is something that I hope they will consider trying in a future patch. That Team Sophia is willing to look at the Total War Warhammer 3 diplomacy system, which is, of course, built on the Warhammer 1 legacy system, which is shit, to be honest. There's no other way to put it. It was a very, very bad system that, unfortunately, we've had to build on top of. And messing with it is spooky. But I will say that Sophia even being willing to entertain the idea of messing with it, and that maybe being one of the betas, one of the proving ground betas we get to do in the future, is Sophia maybe taking a, you know, after they do like the AI and after they do sieges, maybe taking a whack at the diplomacy system and trying to make it more interesting would be really, really exciting. Like, yeah. So, okay, that's interesting. So that I'm guessing, I'm genuinely guessing. I do not know more than what they are saying in this. I swear to you. But what it sounds like, and it could be that because they're not getting super specific, but I would guess they don't want to get super specific because we're still probably like at least a month away from release. So, you know, you don't want to give too much specifics because things might change. Um, but what it sounds to me like they're saying is that Sail will have a mechanic where you basically will prepare to break certain treaties in advance. So, like, you're supposed to, what it sounds like it'll be is you're supposed to build up to a military alliance or whatever with someone and then backstab them and deliberately betray them. But by setting it up in advance, I'm guessing that the bigger alliance you have with them, so whether it's just non-aggression or you have a trade agreement or you have like military access all the way up to like defensive and military alliance, what it kind of sounds like is if you prep to betray someone in the long run and then you finally pull off the betrayal, Sail will get like massive rewards or some kind of power boost. That's what I think they're saying. Which would be super cool. That would be very different from like Tretch Craventail, for instance, where Tretch is more about that he uses opportunities of betrayal to give himself like temporary boosts to basically like turn and just stab an ally in the back and get a bunch of buffs against them, while he just rips them apart. Or the Changeling, who doesn't really use a betrayal system. In my opinion, he's more of just like a manipulate from a distance system. But yeah, okay, I think there's some potential there. Oh, please. So I will say that hopefully they'll show they'll show the teaser again somewhere later in the video, because otherwise I'm gonna have to drag it up and I'd rather not. But I am 100%, I'm not 90, I am 100% sure that the other sorcerers that we see in the video are the new Vitki or the Shaman-Sorcerer Lord. If they're gonna go with the Norsca name, it should be called a Vitki. If they're gonna go with like the generic boring Total War name, it would probably just be Shaman-Sorcerer Lord, which is the Lord level human caster. I think that would be awesome. I think that would be a great addition to Norsca. Caster Lords are really important. And because if you look, there's two kinds. There's Skalkane the Vile, who was Skalkane the Vile is the guy in the center with like the big antlers behind him. That guy was the arch sorcerer of the Dolgans that Sail was an apprentice of, and then during that ritual, Sail betrays him because he messes with the ritual, and he betrays Skalkane, and he makes the ritual go wrong, and it results in Skalkane being killed, and the other three apprentices get fused together to create a chaos spawn called Nightmaw, who's like really nasty. So I am, if you go look at the video and you really pay attention, the apprentices all look like they're a different variant of the Shaman-Sorcerer Lord, because they have like different skull stuff like they've got like animal skulls on their heads. And then the guy representing Skalkane the Vile is also a new model, but he's got more beast kind of stuff going on. So I would guess that it depends on what lore of magic they're wielding. They have like slightly different appearances. That could be what it is. Because the Skalkane Vile model does not look like any model we have in the game. It doesn't look like the Amber Wizard to me. So I'm assuming that they're just alternate versions of that Shaman-Sorcerer Lord. Nightmaw! Oh my god, look at that thing. Bro, it looks like a monster out of Dead Space. Ugh, it's gross. Oh, it's an ability. Not okay, that's interesting. So okay, so Nightmaw, for those confused, Nightmaw in tabletop, Nightmaw was literally like kind of a part of Sail. Like you had to deploy him right next to Sail. And he always was like close to Sail. And basically his gimmick was that he just kind of hit like a truck. But he was kind of, you can almost think of them as like a sort of Skarsnik and Gobla, but Nightmaw was able to wander a little bit and could be like shot independently and had his own health pool and stuff. But the whole thing with Nightmaw is that Nightmaw is able to be like practically invisible. So when my video comes out about Sail's backstory, I talk about some scenes with Nightmaw, and Nightmaw is said to, as it fights, it's so fast and it's so like wreathed in weird shadow magic that it's able to functionally, like, it just looks like this weird dark mist that's like flying across the battlefield, and it's just like blendering people as it goes around Sail. So and as long as Sail is alive, it cannot die. So like now granted, the tabletop, I think it just had regeneration, but so in tabletop, Nightmaw, well, in the lore, I'll put it that way, in the lore, Nightmaw is borderline invulnerable as long as Sail is alive. Like, it can be hurt, and you can hurt it bad enough that it like runs away and it like, you know, runs and hides in some hole somewhere to lick its wounds, but it cannot be killed unless Sail himself is killed. So I was really curious how they were going to try and bring it in the game, because the only thing I could think of was making it like a summon. But summons are kind of meh because of the whole thing of like they tend to have like a timer, and then you have to like micromanage them and stuff. So making it an ability where Nightmaw basically like comes crawling out of these shadowy portals and just rips people apart and then disappears back into shadows, I think that is a far more lore accurate way to handle him. I think making him a summon would have been more tabletop accurate. I don't think he's not a legendary hero, because say Nightmaws just can't exist without being very close to Sail. Like, it's not able to separate itself from Sail. So I don't think it would have been appropriate to make it a character. I think this is a really clever way to handle it. I'm very curious how exactly it's going to work. Like, I assume it'll be an active ability that makes Nightmaw like pop out and just start killing people. But it's gonna be, it looks very unique. Oh, look how ugly it is. Oh, it's horrible. And like, it's beautiful in a horrible, ugly way. Looks great. I'm actually very happy with that. Oh no. So I just realized that for some reason my audio is not coming through. And y'all are like, Sotek, what the hell? So I'm gonna assume y'all are adults and can listen on your own. To that part. You can just kind of follow along. But everything I said is still valid. The sound is working now. Apologize. I'm not gonna do this over again because I don't want to. Because I want this reaction to be genuine. So, my bad.
Actually, a very different looking creature compared to the rest of the roster. So we enjoyed a lot creating this thing, exploring all the Warhammer lore and trying to make it possible
it's so ugly.
Because Of course, especially for
It's
the
so
animation
ugly.
team, the challenge is multiplied by the extra limbs and mutations the character may have. And yeah, it was very fun to make it.
I'm guessing it's not something we can really mocap, is it?
No, not really. We try to mocap it up, but it's difficult to keep all the people together, so it kind of feels natural. So we kind of gave it up.
Okay, so we've talked about the Nightmaw then.
That's
the
funny.
Roster, what else do we have on there?
Oh, come on, show
Another
me.
addition to the Norscan roster is the Fimir Noble. It's
Yes!
an addition to the Fimir
Wait.
family, which we already have in
Two
Warhammer 3.
lords?
And the Famir are known to walk in the shadows, to use magic to their advantage.
Oh, look at him. He looks so cool. He's got like a big hook added onto his tail. Oh, look at his armor. Oh, the Famir Noble looks so good. I genuinely did not think we were going to get this guy. Like when they revealed Sale yesterday, I was like, okay, we're just not doing Famir. He looks so good. Oh my god, he looks so cool. Ooh, is he a lord or a hero?
Family, which we already have in Warhammer 3, and the Famir are known to walk in the shadows, to use magic to their advantage, and to surprise their unsuspecting prey. And the Noble will be no different. He's going to benefit from that as well.
Look at that cape.
And also, as a hero character, other Famir present in the game will benefit from his presence in battle.
Okay. I don't like that. I don't like that. So, okay, hear me out before you're like, Sotek is just being crazy. So right now, Norsca has one lord. One. They have the Norscan chieftain. That's it. But hero-wise, we have the Shaman-Sorcerer, the Famir Balefiend, and the Skinwolf Werekin. I think that's the three options we have, right? So the Famir Noble would be our fourth hero option. Here's my problem. The Famir Noble is a monstrous infantry combat character. But we already have a really good monstrous infantry combat character, which is the Skinwolf Werekin. And we also already have a Famir hero in the Famir Balefiend, who has magic, but also has like armor sundering, which is a really nice support thing because, you know, he's hitting people and lowering their armor, and he gives us that Famir representation. I really, really think this guy should be changed to be a lord. I would, because if this guy's not a lord, that means that for Norsca we have the chieftain lord and the shaman-sorcerer lord. So you have a combat lord and a magic lord, but they're all humans. There is no monstrous creature lord besides Throg. So Throg is still gonna be the troll lord who has to use humans as his secondary characters. Whereas I really feel like the Famir Noble would be so much better because this would give us a monstrous lord who's able to synergize with all of the monstrous infantry and all of like the creatures in the roster. I really, really think this guy should be changed to be a lord. I really do. I would much rather have the Famir Noble, Shaman-Sorcerer Lord, and Marauder Chieftain as three lords, and then have the Skinwolf Werekin, the Famir Balefiend, and the Shaman-Sorcerer as three heroes. I think that would be totally fine and would work really, really well. And if they want to have a hero that offers more monster buffs, or more, like, if you want more, like, kind of monster buffs, just add them in, but split them between the Werekin and the Balefiend. Because especially the Balefiend, because the Balefiend doesn't really have all that many skills. Like, if you get one to level 50, you are gonna max out the skill tree, or extremely close. So, like, if they want to give more hero support skills to support big stompy things, I would say just give it to the Werekin and the Famir Balefiend, or have it be that the Famir Noble as a lord has all of those systems. That way his armies are geared around monsters. I really don't like this. Like I'm gonna be really encouraging Creative Assembly to change this. Because the only reason I can think of that the Famir Noble should be kept as a hero is if CA has long-term plans to make like the Famir Matriarch into a generic lord. Which they might, which if you know they're gonna do a generic Famir Matriarch lord, well then okay, then never mind. Because that would give us our monstrous infantry type lord that synergizes well, and then you can have like tons and tons of goodies. But for the way the Norsca roster currently stands, I personally think this is a mistake. I'm not a fan of this. I don't know. I am gonna go barking up CA's tree to see if I can find out if they do have future Famir Matriarch plans. But yeah, I'm not a fan. Like I love it. I want it. I just don't think it should be a hero because I don't think it's fulfilling an interesting niche that can't be served by the Werekin and the Balefiend. I just don't.
We know different.
Yeah.
He's going to benefit from that as well. And also, as a hero character, other Fimir present in the game will benefit from his presence.
It looks
in
great.
battle,
I'm very excited to play with him
in various situations. So they can use him in conjunction with them, but also with other monsters and creatures in the Norscan roster.
Any more we want to talk about today?
Let me think a little bit about it. We can talk a little bit about the Chimera. So
Whoa,
we're also adding
what?
a Chimera,
The
three-headed
Chimera?
monster that
Holy
I imagine
shit!
it comes to no surprise to most.
Holy shit! Oh my god, they're doing the Chimera. I would not have predicted that. Huh. Why did I not say Chimera for Norsca? Am I stupid? I must be stupid. What the fuck did I say? So, I said what? Curs'd, which I still feel like we're going to get the Curs'd. But what? Curs'd, I said Giant Spine Chaos Beast, which, yeah, that would still be good. I'm trying to think what else I said. Because, like, why didn't I say Chimeras live in Norsca? The mountains of Norsca are infested with Chimeras. Like, of course Norsca would have a Chimera. I feel so dumb. Oh my god, that's so awesome. Oh, that's gonna give Norsca like a really nice, like, aggressive powerhouse flyer. That's super cool. That is super cool. I'm actually very curious if the Warriors of Chaos are gonna get the Chimera as well. I hope the Beastmen do. I think the Beastmen should get the Chimera. I don't know if the Warriors of Chaos should get the Chimera. I mean, I think they should. Probably. Yeah. I mean, I don't see why not. I mean, it'd be nice to have it, because, like, if they do the Curs'd, which I hope they do, the Curs'd should be exclusive to Norsca. Like, it does not, I don't think it makes sense for the Curs'd to be in any other roster. I think that's pure Norsca coded. But the Chimera, of course, is originally from, I want to say the OG Chimera is from, well, okay, when Chaos started to separate, I want to say the Chimera is quite old. I think it was in the Beasts of Chaos book rather than the Hordes of Chaos, which is when the mortals and the demons separated from the Beastmen. I want to say the Chimera went with the Beastmen first, but then in 7th edition, when the Warriors and the Demons split, the Chimera went to the Warriors. And the Chimera stayed with the Warriors of Chaos in 8th edition until the Storm of Magic came out, and then the Storm of Magic book, I believe, gave the Chimera to, like, pretty much all the major Chaos factions. So, I would be totally fine. I think it'd be completely fair for the Chimera to be in the Beastman, Norscan, and Warrior of Chaos roster. But considering it's usually seen as a mountainous beast, like it's a beast of the mountains, I could see the argument that it doesn't belong in the Beastman roster. Because the Beastmen are more about the deep forests, typically. But it's a wibbly argument. Like if the Beastmen did not get the Chimera, I wouldn't be upset. But I think it'd be nice for them to have the Chimera. But
unfortunately, but
I
it's
love
a very
this
vicious
design.
Flying creature,
I
versatile in
love this
combat,
design.
is gonna
Oh, look
be
how
able
colorful
to
it is.
get in and out of battle very quickly. And its 3 heads will possess 3 different attacks that will also
Nice.
give
It
it a
has
little
unique
bit
head attacks.
more
Very cool.
zest in how it engages with other creatures and characters on battle.
So excited for the Chimera.
And
very
of
excited for the
course,
Chimera.
There's going to be other secrets, but we're going to keep them.
It's
later.
nasty. The Chimera is actually really gross because it's got regeneration. And on tabletop you could upgrade it to breathe fire and also to have poisoned attacks. So I'm actually curious which version Creative Assembly will go with, because in tabletop the basic bitch Chimera just has regen, and then it fights good. But everybody and their grandmother would always upgrade their Chimeras. They'd always pay the extra points to give their Chimeras poison attacks at minimum, and most people would give it the fire breath. Because it was fairly cheap, and the oomph you got from those upgrades was significant. So I'm hoping we get the full version that breathes fire and stuff. But it could be tech tree upgrades. They could make it where there's a tech in your tech tree that gives it poisoned attacks or fire breath and stuff.
Onto the Chimera, there is a little known biological fact that it has 4 heads because its tail is also a head.
Yep.
True.
That is absolutely right.
Okay, well, do make sure that you are, of course, subscribed and following us everywhere, because we do have more of this roster to reveal. But later, Now,
Oh,
it's been
they're only
some
doing
time since
one
we've had
unit?
the opportunity to update Norsca. But when we go
They're
back
only
to
doing
looking at one of
one?
these factions that
Oh,
haven't
you
been updated in a while,
teases.
and brought in line with those new standards that we kind of have.
You teases.
What's the first type of thing that we look at for this faction?
So yeah, as you said, the Norscans have been in there for quite a while. We've been hearing people saying, just please update them.
Yeah, please.
They're in need of love. And we've decided to give them this kind of love right now.
I'm
there are
so
2
excited,
types of
dude.
updates that we're making to the Norscans. One of those is related to their racial mechanics.
Cool.
But we're also doing some faction-specific ones. So in terms of racial mechanics, we're changing the way the Monsters Arcanum work. This is a favorite change of mine because it makes it kind of more relevant to what I'm doing in my campaign.
Okay.
We're also updating the way Chaos Gods Allegiance work, and
Nice.
also the dilemmas related to Confederation. We're a bit expanding
Oh!
them. In terms of
Interesting.
specific
I'm-
stuff,
I'm really, I don't know what they could do to the Confederation to make it more interesting. That'll be interesting, because right now, I mean, most people just confederate and just move on. So I'm really curious what they could possibly do to make that more interesting. But I am very excited for the Monstrous Arcanum expansion and the Allegiance system rework. Because those systems, they function, but they're not super great. So hopefully with the Monstrous Arcanum, we'll be seeing we'll be seeing just a lot more monsters.
we are changing the way Seafang works.
Yes!
For Wolfick.
Teleport,
Seafang is his
teleport.
signature ship.
Teleport.
And currently he is available in the game only as a battle ability, but we have extended his presence to the campaign map. So right now we're using Seafang. Will provide you with an easier means of transport, crossing vast distances from port to port, which will likely turn you into this ultimate raiding machine that we're going for the flavor.
That's what I wanted, baby. That's what I wanted.
Throg is an interesting case where he's the Troll King a little bit more on paper, at least as that's how we saw it in the current example. And as Tudor mentioned, we've tried to push in the flavor for other Norscan faction, not just Throg. So one of the factors that we looked through when we did these reworks is to make them feel distinct of each other. Wolfick, Throg, and Sail. Wolfick being more the marauding side, Sail the diplomatic manipulator, and Throg the
Cool.
monster king that expands his kingdom in destroying things around him. Basically, he's going to remain on his present position, but we've adjusted him with an additional mechanic that where he's going to be able to utilize his influence towards other monsters and trolls more in particular, and call their power, one might say, in order to aid him in battle and aid him in his further conquest.
Okay, that's very vague. That's very vague. So what I'm hoping what it is that Throg will be able to just recruit like trolls from any faction. At minimum, it sounds like he might get bonus monsters as well. So maybe monsters from non-Norscan factions. But my bare minimum hope is that he gets access to like every troll unit. I feel like he should get every troll unit. I would say including Regiment of Renounce, like to swamp things.
Another interesting addition that it's also worth saying is that we're adding a few more hunts within the Monsters Arcanum.
Nice.
So there's going to be more monsters to hunt, there's going to be more creatures to seek, and more rewards to reap.
Great.
And another tiny but significant update is that both Throg and Wolfick are getting an additional set of voice lines. Especially for Throg, it was important to convey the fact that as he is a troll that's been touched by chaos,
Did you
he's
redo?
also a more intelligent kind of troll.
Yes, he
Perhaps
is.
the most intelligent troll in existence.
Yes, he is.
A whole new VA has been recorded for these then.
Yeah.
Oh, we did it. We did it. We fucking won. We won the war. Oh my god. So you're telling me Throg is no longer go, I eat my enemies. Okay, so Throg's no longer stupid. Oh. I feel like that scene at the end of Avengers Infinity War when Thanos is just sitting on this porch and is like just smiling on a grateful universe. Oh, Throg has a new voice. I mean, I'm fine if it's the same voice actor, but his lines were just terrible. They were terrible. It wasn't Throg. Oh, that's so good. That's interesting that they re-recorded Wolfric as well. I thought Wolfric was fine, but I guess if you're gonna do one, you might as well do both. But hey, that's very exciting.
We saw that Wolfric and Throg were lacking VOs from the original game, as they are one of the more older factions within Warhammer. But also, we've heard the comments about Throg's previous VOs, and
Yes.
we completely agree with it, actually, and decided to redo completely Throg and update
Thank you.
Wolfric to be brought in line
Thank
with
you.
the current.
Okay, so Wolfric wasn't re-recorded. They're just adding a lot more lines to Wolfric, which is awesome. I'm super down for that.
State of what Warhammer is today.
Very
Okay,
exciting.
well, awesome. I'm glad that you guys have had the opportunity to do
Very,
that. I know it's
very
something that
good.
You guys have been asking for quite a lot on
Thank
the Reddits
you.
and the forums. In the last
Thank
What's
you.
Next video, we kind of forgot to talk about the Dakala and Slenesh reworks that we're also trying to bring. So when it comes to Slenesh,
Yeah, what does
what are the
Slenesh?
things that we've looked to update there?
I mean,
Slenesh is an interesting case.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, I would struggle to say how to rework Slenesh because, and I think for me the hard part is what would be defined as Slenesh mechanics versus what are Nakari mechanics, because currently Nakari is Slenesh, and that's it. So, yeah, we'll see what they say.
Where they were represented just by Nkari currently, and we wanted
Yeah,
to
that.
make the new faction in terms of the Kala and Nakari feel distinct from each other, but also supplement what Slenesh does right now. And while it does it fairly well, we've updated few systems to bring them more into up to speed with the current trends
New
that we've
tech
used in
tree?
other reworks. So that applies towards the technology trees.
Nice.
We've looked towards the proliferation of codes to make it a little bit more functionally usable in terms of the
Okay, cool.
current strategies and what they aim to achieve right now on the map. And also we've looked how to improve and tweak some of the more controversial aspects of Sleneshi benefits, for example, their replenishment, and also
That'll be-
their
that's good.
usability in terms of battle and the stats there.
Okay.
hopefully by their stats, he means that they debuff the shit out of some of the units, because Slenesh is so busted right now. Slenesh has been, like, if you follow the multiplayer scene at all, Slenesh is like horrifyingly strong right now. So if they're talking stats, yeah, somebody needs to walk in and kick some of the Slenesh cavalry units in the nuts a little bit, because they are really good.
Well, there you have it then. Sail and the Norsca are our next.
We're only
faction
like halfway
that you can
done.
Look forward to when this next DLC launches later this summer. Now,
I'm
unless
hoping
you've
for
been
late
living
next month.
under a mangler squig, you probably saw the Skulls event very recently.
Oh wait, no,
and
it's
you
still
may
May.
have spotted
I'm hoping
this
for July.
First look at Sail. Take a look at this.
I'm hoping for July. Oh, okay, so here's the trailer again. So, once again, when you're watching this, keep in mind what you're seeing, which is really cool, is that this Sail model is unique and will not be used again, because this is Sail before he becomes the Faithless. So here you could see, okay, so I actually think this might be the regular Shaman-Sorcerer, and then this is the new Shaman-Sorcerer Lord, because these guys, they kind of have the wolf pelt head. So I can't tell if those are the current Shaman-Sorcerer. I'd have to open the game and look, which I can't be bothered. But I know the current Shaman-Sorcerer wears a kind of like pelt hood. So I think those might be the basic guys. And then Skalkane the Vile here is the he's the new Shaman-Sorcerer Lord, is what I'm suspecting, is we're seeing. Dude, the music in this trailer is so good. I'm really hoping that's going to be part of the full trailer, because if the full trailer is showing how each of them formed,
I
like,
mean, these trailers are...
like if the trailer shows like how Dakala became Dakala, how Sail becomes Sail, and how whoever the third one becomes the third one, that would be baller.
just fantastic for us to watch. Break it down for us though, Total. What have we actually seen in that trailer?
So we saw the first significant moment of Sail's rise to power, and
Right.
also a treachery. Because what happened in this particular case is that Sail was a part of a conclave of magicians, and they're conducting a special ritual, unaware that Sail has, fiddled around with it for a bit. So it backfires, the ritual, because of Sail's treachery. And what happens is that the leader of the magicians, called Shalkane, and probably I'm butchering the name, I don't know.
Don't look at me.
He
I don't know
is
the
blown up to
pronunciations.
bits. Only his teeth remain, and they become a battle
Yeah,
ability
yeah, okay,
for
yep.
Sail further on.
So they're an
Whereas
ability.
The,
Awesome.
the other three spellcasters are fused into this hideous blob of moving flesh.
Great.
Specific kind of spawn that is called the Nightmaw. And yeah, this is something that you will see Sail use in battles.
So
Now,
good.
These things, I mean, there's so much work that goes into creating them.
I will say, I really, really hope Sail gets his mammoth mount, because in tabletop, Sail could only be taken on foot, and it was mostly because you had to run Nightmaw next to him. So they kind of designed it where he was just meant to be like in an infantry unit, and then Nightmaw would like run around. But I very, very much hope that in Total War he rides a mammoth, because in the story of Tarmakon, there's a description that he rides on a war mammoth with like the full Chaos War Shrine, and it even talks about that Sail sits on an ivory throne on top of a mammoth, and he's on a mammoth for like a good part of the story. The final battle, he's actually on the mammoth as well. So hopefully he has like the full mount circuit, like horse, chariot, mammoth. but we'll see.
When we start to concept them, Stoyan, how long does it take for us to get from that point to the finish line where they're looking as cool as we saw in Skulls?
Well, it's a quite long process, and actually everything starts with the brief from the game design team. We collect all the information we need, the research for Warhammer lore, and gathering miniature references, if there is any.
Good.
After we collect all the information we need, the concept team start with a rough sketch representing
look at
the main
him.
visual features of the character.
You look so cool.
After the sketch is approved, we continue with the actual concept, where we create more detailed and accurate version of the character, including multiple
I love concept art,
view
dude.
angles, material guides, stuff like that. And after that, the concept is
Concept
actually
art
ready
is
to
so
proceed
sexy.
with the modeling part, where we create the geometry and texture and materials for the in-game model. After that part, the character continues his journey to the skinning, rigging, animations, and VFX. So it's a quite long process. A lot of teams are involved.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a great team effort in general.
Now, one of the great privileges that we always have with these What's Next videos is the opportunity to talk about the craft of making a video game, because it's something that we love doing, but it's never easy.
Something
And
I love
mean,
hearing
that's
about, to be
always
honest.
going to be true of art as well, isn't it, Stoyan? Like, what are the challenges that you bump into when you're trying to create something as immersive and diverse as the world that we have in Warhammer?
Well,
Best game of all
I
time,
think
dude.
The
Best
main
game of all time.
challenge always is to keep the fine balance between multiple requirements, one of which is to keep all the assets true to the Warhammer lore and sources. In the same time,
What
to
are they
fit
talking
the
about for another 8
already
minutes?
established
Good lord.
visual style and technical requirements for the game to be
No, I'm not
capable
complaining.
of,
I'm very pleased.
performing all the actions and abilities which are required by the game design, and in the same time looks cool. So yeah, all these things are kind of difficult to balance in some cases with
Team
some
Sophia.
characters.
If
And
y'all ever
already
watch this, Team Sophia, I
DLC
could
that
kiss
we're
you.
creating now.
I could
It's
kiss
taking
you.
shape, and it's stuff
If y'all
that
ever
we're
want
really enjoying having a look
Texas
at and
barbecue
playing with
ingredients, let
already.
me know.
But when you guys
I'll
are
send them
playing
to
the
you.
builds
I'll mail
that you
them.
have
I swear to God.
today, what are the things that are really
I got,
making
like,
you smile
packets
and
of
say,
dry
I can't
spices.
wait for players to
They
actually
travel
get
very
hands-on
well.
with this?
Well, from my perspective, one of the things that really inspires me is the fact that I, as a Total War player, am one of the first to experience the entire thing of playing a campaign with Sail.
Must be
and
nice.
seeing how his features have come together so that a particular type of experience can be achieved, and also then providing input on that experience. But if we're talking specifically about art, I love the battle animations of units. So what I do on most of my battles in the very beginning, before I've hit the start battle button, I just arrange my units and I do a pass over with the camera right by them to see how they roar or, sharpen their weapons or whatever. This is something that I love, not only for Warhammer, but for any Total War game that I've played.
It's actually one of my favorite aspects as well, to see something brought to life from a sketch that we've all worked to bring into existence, and then with the progression of how it appears without maybe the textures or maybe without animations, and then the animations appear. And because for us in game design, we're focused over multiple aspects of the project itself, we're not always keeping in touch with the latest development, and it's occasionally brings a smile for me too when I'm doing testing of a feature or something else, to see a new animation added and it's something incredible, something great. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, and that's one of my favorite processes of this job actually as a whole.
There is literally a kind of magic in there, because for some of the units, what you know in the beginning is just the brief paragraph of text, and then months later you see the unit in the game.
Yeah.
And you say, oh my God, it's alive.
It's
This is what it is.
It's alive!
It's always a great feeling at the end.
And we're obviously so blessed as well, because there is so much creativity in our community and from our players. When we see art come from them, whether it's their own creations, whether it's mods, whether it's just tiny tweaks on what we've got, like, what is it that you...
Shout out to, like, the Koresh fan team, for instance, or the modders that love me and have made multiple mods fixing that stupid goddamn quaddle.
you see in our audience that inspires you, Stoyan?
Yeah, for me as an artist, it's always inspiring and interesting to see other artist representation of Warhammer units and characters, especially ones which don't have actual models references. So in such cases, without such specific reference, it's very important for the artist to have great imagination and deep lore knowledge to be able to create this character in the best
This is a cool shout out
way.
for the community.
So I think that especially for the concept design, the imagination is very valuable trait, and I suggest to all aspiring artists to try to always create something new and different, not always everything else which is already there.
Now we have 6.2 on the horizon. There's going to be things that we still want to do before we get to update 7.0. But Total, what are those things?
So
6.2. Okay.
Mentioned
Okay.
6.2
New patch.
right around the corner somewhere. In 6.2,
Probably next
we
month,
will
I would
be
guess.
updating ancillaries in general in the game.
Oh,
Their effects,
nice. The ancillary
their trigger
update.
conditions,
That's going to be big.
We'll likely be adding some
That's going to be
new
a
ones.
fat update.
We will be trying to find the
Holy
balance
shit, that's going to be a big
between
update.
making those ancillaries that are
Yikes.
perceived as, you know, not as useful, making them more powerful, more prominent, but still retain the ones that are fan favorites, their unique status.
Like Tormentor
this
Sword.
Update to the ancillaries, we have been thinking about it for quite a while, and we've decided that now is the proper time to release it. And earlier in the year, we released 6.1, which brought about a significant update to Kislevite factions, to the gameplay of Kairos with
which was great.
additional
That was
units
awesome.
for Cafe.
Like 10 out of 10.
And we're really happy with it because this was our way to address player feedback related back to the release of Shadows of Change, because these were the factions from the Shadows of Change. One thing that we did find out is that it took a significant effort to plan it, design it, develop it, test it, and then release it. So the next
took a lot of time.
patches will be focused on some specific bits in the game. Of course, the ancillary system is something.
Okay, so it sounds like to me what they're saying is doing a faction rework took a lot more effort and a lot more time than we thought it would. And we're not going to do that again for a hot minute, is what I'm hearing for these patches. So, like, what I'm hearing is that for 6.2, probably 7.1 and 7.2, for instance, we're probably not going to see any faction reworks, because it sounds like they want to focus on core systems. So, like, ancillary system, the siege rework, diplomacy rework, the AI rework. It's what, and I could be misinterpreting this, but to me, what it sounds like they're saying is don't expect any like big faction reworks through those patches. Like, we know for 7.0, we're getting a very big Norsca rework. It sounds like Slenesh is getting a fairly minor rework, but I think Slenesh is in a really good place right now, so that's totally fine. I don't think Slenesh needs a big rework. And that the third faction, depending on who it is, because I mean, if it's High Elves, I think High Elves need a pretty significant rework. If it's Tomb Kings, I think Tomb Kings need a pretty significant rework. I mean, I would be shocked if it's not High Elves. I feel pretty goddamn sure that it's high, because it's called Tides of Torment, which implies like ocean tide, ocean waves. And like the image for Tides of Torment has pink, black, and blue, and it's like a really nice like order faction blue, I would say. Like almost a babyish blue. So I'm really thinking it's gonna be Dakala, Sail, and Sea Lord Iceland. Like, it's gotta be Iceland with the High Elves, because I feel like if you do a Slenesh DLC, there has to be elves. Like, if you do a Slenesh DLC, there has to be elves. And I'm really hoping that CA learned their lesson from the Warhammer 2 DLC cycle, because I will die butthurt that they messed up the Warhammer 2 DLC cycle, because it should have been every Warhammer 1 faction gets to fight that each of all 4 DLCs after the initial kind of wave should have been of game 1 faction versus a game 2 faction. And the fact that they dropped the ball and did not do Skaven versus dwarves and then vampire counts versus dark elves, but instead shot themselves in the foot with Skaven versus dark elves will always blow my mind in the worst way. If they come out of this doing Slenesh Norsca high elves, that's perfect. And it also means that there is not a single repeat faction. There's no repeats for all 4 of the Chaos Cycle. We got 12 completely different factions, all getting updates, all getting new legendary lords, many of which getting reworks. And that's the way to do it.
I think that is quite far-reaching, but it is one of the features. And these are our plans in general for the future patches to focus on specific aspects of the game itself. One thing that we are doing in addition to the patches and the hotfixes, which are still recurring.
I wonder if we're still going to get a unit.
The Proving Grounds. The Proving Grounds.
Proving Ground beta has been awesome.
Special kind of an arena.
Very
where
cool.
You can play a version of the game with some fixes and some changes in there, and you can give us your feedback. And this is the proper moment to thank our community for providing us with feedback on the campaign AI changes.
Did you
that
submit
we have done
feedback?
So far.
I did.
Our main
You
goal was
should
to
too.
make campaign AI more active, more challenging, so that you kind of meet some resistance in the later stages of your campaign. This makes it more engaging, more interesting. And it was really amazing to go through the feedback of the people playing actual playthroughs and telling us how things happened with them, telling their story. This is one of the challenges that we're facing, because a total war game, if you have to experience its entire campaign in actual environment, it takes a lot of time to complete. We don't have enough people over here to do sufficient amount of playthroughs for the Immortal Empires, where you can have
that is some serious
100 playable
God,
factions.
that takes a lot of time.
Of course, the dev people are playing it, and our QA team, God bless the QA team, are playing the game too.
Poor
and
QA. Poor QA, man.
Into account. But the Proving Grounds are
like trying
really
to empty the ocean a bucket at a time. Those
so
QA guys.
Please join them. Please give us your feedback. We'll take it into account. And we plan to do some more in this year, again, related to various aspects of the game, where such changes which will benefit the most from a lot of people playing them.
Okay, well, that's probably just about all the time that we've got for this particular What's Next video. Of course, our thanks to Todor, to Stoyanov, and to Vasil for joining me today to talk through all of these changes. But there you have it. Sale is our next legendary lord leading the forces of Norsca. And of course, he's joining Dakala, who's marshalling the forces of Slenesh. There's still one more legendary lord for us to reveal, which we'll be doing in the next What's Next video, which we should have for you next month. In the meantime, do make sure you drop down to the comments below. Let us know what you think. What have you enjoyed hearing about today from the team? What's got you super excited for what's coming next in Warhammer 3? For now, we will say our goodbyes, but do make sure you head over to totalwar.com. You'll find all of our socials linked from there. And of course, make sure you like this video and subscribe, because we'll have plenty more to show you on this DLC in the near future. For now, we'll say our goodbyes. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye, folks.
Yeah, you heard him. Like this video and subscribe to this channel so you can hear more of my stupid bullshit. So yeah, very pleased. This was awesome. This is great. I love these. I think these are fantastic. It's really nice to like be able to put faces to names and get to see some like nice character from the devs, and like hear them talk about the things that they want to talk about. I think that's absolutely fantastic. These are great. So Sale of the Faithless looks fantastic. I'm very interested in his mechanics. The idea of plotting betrayals, I think, has some pretty serious potential, which sounds cool. The Chimera genuinely caught me off guard. I feel stupid that it caught me off guard. Like I almost want to go back and look at my Monsters of Norsca video. I said Werebears, Curs'd Etten, Giant Spine Chaos Beast. Oh, Famir Shurls, and I don't remember what the last thing was. Some stupid thing. Very pleased with the Chimera. That's awesome. That's great. Man, that makes me wonder what all Norsca's gonna get. I feel very, very confident we're getting the Curs'd. So that's already 2 monsters. So then maybe Werebear still, if we get Bjorg Bearstruck as a legendary hero. I think Bearstruck would make an excellent legendary hero. I don't think he's really legendary lord material, but I think as a hero he'd be awesome. So maybe Bjorg. Bjorg's actually the only character I can think of that would make a good Norsca hero in light of this DLC. In my Mortals one, I do propose another character, but she's not as big as Bjorg. She's not nearly as big as Bjorg. She's important, but she's not at the same, like, she doesn't have the same historical context, like IRL historical context in Norsca that Bjorg does. And if we were to get Bjorg, then Werebears would be a good 3rd unit. And then I really hope we get like one good infantry unit. Well, I mean, Famir Shurls, if they're giving us the Famir Noble, then, I mean, Famir Shurls would be awesome. You could finish off the Famir, because that's the only regular Famir thing left. Literally, now that the Noble's been confirmed, the only things that exist anywhere in the lore that's, like, even remotely relevant to nowadays about the Famir that we're missing is the Matriarch, which would have to be a Lord or a Legendary Lord, and the Shurls, which are like basic bitch Famir, which could make a cool unit. But I would also really like, you know, Valkyries or Huskarls. I will say, about the Famir Noble, I do want to talk about this. I do want this to be the last thing I talk about. I really think he should be a Lord, and the main thing I say that for is that I feel like the generic hero, even if we don't get him this DLC, I am totally fine not getting it this DLC. I really feel like the generic hero should be the Jarl. The Jarl should be the 4th hero for Norsca, being a really awesome melee badass berserker type character, like a super, you know, kick at, you know, with the Skinwolf Werekin is very like anti-infantry, or sorry, anti-large. The Famir Balefiend has some anti-infantry going for it, but like the Norscan Jarl would be that perfect mix of, like, you could make him, like, you could spec him to be bodyguard themed, you could spec him to be like a really hardcore anti-infantry berserker, or maybe you could spec him to be kind of like more of like just a general fighter, or like a buff character who's really big on buffing your actual Norskins. Like, I don't really feel like we need a monster buffing hero. I just don't think that's what we need. Like, if you want to add more monster buffs, give us a monster lord with the noble, and then make the Famir Balefiend, give him more skills so that he has more monster buffs, because his skill tree could use more stuff. You know, if it's like most monsters, and then like you have your, you know, all your were types creatures, the Werekin does that. Where the Werekin like buffs your werewolves or your skin wolves, your regular dogs, your ice wolves, your ice wolf chariots, and like your werebears if we get those. You know, like divide it that way. And then you have like the Balefiend buffs like your Famir, your Frostworms, your Chimeras, and all that shit. Yeah, I really think he should be a Lord. Unless, once again, unless their goal is to do a Famir Matriarch as a generic Lord in the future. Which could be the case. And if that is the case, they're not really going to confirm it. So, you know, it's not like CA doesn't tend to be in the habit of being like, when you're like, hey, you should change this unless you're going to do this. They don't tend to be like, oh, well, we are going to do that, so could you kindly shut up? And I wish they could do that, because then I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll shut up gladly. Genuinely, okay, I'll shut up, no problem. So I don't know, I guess, but But yeah, let me know y'all's thoughts. That's probably the biggest thing I'm curious about. Do y'all agree with me? Like, do you think I'm being stupid and you're like, Sotek, shut up, I'll just take the Famir noble hero, be quiet? Or do you, like, would you prefer to have would you prefer this DLC to give you 2 new generic lords, being the Famir noble is your monster lord and your Shaman-Sorcerer lord is your caster lord, and then you have the Marauder Chieftain as your melee lord who can mount really big things and really fast things? Because the Famir lords cannot take mounts, right? The Famir noble doesn't ride on anything. He walks everywhere. So like your Marauder Chieftain is still great because he's mobility. He can upgrade all the way up to a mammoth, so he can go from being like infantry to full monster. But your Famir noble is your monstrous infantry and is all about specking and buffing all of your monsters. And you know, he'll have like the From the Mist passive, so he's like got really, really good missile resistance, and like a bunch of like buffs and stuff. I don't know. I'm very curious about y'all's thoughts, because this could just be a me thing. But I really, really think, once again, with the caveat that they're not planning to do the Famir matriarch at some distant point in the future, I really think the best plan would be to make the Famir noble and the Shaman-Sorcerer lord both lords, and just don't do a generic hero. Just don't do it. And then someday in the future, at some point, give us the Jarl. Let the Jarl be the 4th and final generic hero for Norsca, who's a melee-centric specialist. I think that's the way to handle it. Because Norsca could easily get another DLC. Like, so easy. Considering that they're getting 5 units, they're barely going to be tapping into, like, the infantry stuff. And, like, in the Mortals of Norsca video, I go in depth with it, but I'll just go ahead and say that, like, I easily, without trying that hard, came up with 5 melee units that, or not melee, 5 mortal infantry units that I think would add, well, actually, no, one of them is cavalry, but 5 units that I think would be super easy, barely an inconvenience for Norsca. Being like the Dolgan horse archers, which I really hope we get with Sale, because the Dolgan tribe is famous for 2 things. The Dolgans, which Sale is the boss of, the Dolgans were famous for their mammoths, their war mammoths, and their horse archers. That was their gimmick. So I really hope we're getting the Dolgan horse archers. But I want to see Huskarls as like the bodyguard unit, because the Huskarls actually originate from Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 2nd edition, but they're also like an optional unit that you can take with the drawing a blank. They're an optional unit that you can take with the Jesus Christ. The Sea Wolves in Old World. So they're not an Old World unit in that they weren't created by Old World. So Creative Assembly is allowed to use them because they predate Old World. Which currently it seems that we are not allowed to use regular Old World stuff at the moment. Hopefully that's a position that will change in the future. But as things currently stand, I don't believe CA is allowed to use anything that was created explicitly for the Old World. So like the Necrolith Bone Dragon for the Tomb Kings, or the Lore of Trolls for Giant River Troll Hags. Like those would probably be considered off limits right now. But I think Huskarls are totally fair because they actually originate from something older. So anyway, so like Dolgan Horse Archers, Huskarls is like the bodyguard unit because they're the bodyguards of the Jarls, Kings, and Chieftains. They are their bodyguard. So like a unit that's like really, really tanky, that has the Guardian passive and is all about protecting your characters. Valkyries, God, I want Valkyries so bad. Norscan Valkyries, or sometimes they're called Norscan Shield Maidens, have existed for a super long time. They date back, I think, back to 3rd edition Warhammer Fantasy, which is like the 1980s or early 1990s. I want to say it's late 80s. But the Norscan Valkyries / Shield Maidens have existed for a super long time. So getting them as like an elite tier anti-large unit would be super kick-ass, because Norsca, funny enough, doesn't actually have like a tier 4, tier 5 anti-large infantry unit. because the Marauder champions are great weapon or sword and board. They don't have an anti-large variant. They just have an armor piercing or armored variant. So I think the Valkyries would be perfect for getting them that like big dick anti-large unit. Whalers are a really important aspect of Norscan culture. And the Whalers of Norsca are like super fucking badass because they go up against some crazy shit. And they could be like a really nice mid to high tier like throwing, shooting unit with some cool stuff that I talk about. And what's the last unit that I talked about in that thing? Huskarls. Oh, Flayerkin. Flayerkin would also be super cool. Which Flayerkin originate from the Storm of Chaos. Though you could debate whether they're Norscan or Warriors of Chaos, because technically they belong to the Warriors of Chaos roster. Even though they were created by Clan Moulder, technically through like a pseudo alliance that Clan Moulder made with Archaon, but you would use them in a Warriors of Chaos army. Anyway, so that'll be out in the coming days. So I hope you're all looking forward to that. I fucked up a bunch when I was recording it, and poor Skeleton, my editor, has to like edit all the fuck ups out because he's wonderful and puts up with my bullshit. But the fuck up version was 2 hours long. I'm assuming after he gets all the fuck ups out, the video will probably be like an hour and a half. And most of that is the lore of Sail the Faithless, but I also go into deep depth about those 5 units I talked about, as well as the Jarl and the Shaman-Sorcerer Lord, aka the Vitki. Actually, no, sorry, not the Jarl. Another hero that I won't reveal, so that there's something in the video that you go, oh, I wonder what the generic hero he talked about was. Because it wasn't the Jarl, it was something else. So I'll let that remain a secret. But thank you all again so much for watching. Once again, please let me know what you think of the Famir Noble dilemma down below. I deeply appreciate you taking the time to watch this, and please let me know your thoughts on everything that was revealed. Are you excited? How do you feel about Sail and his design? How do you feel about the interpretation of Nightmaw? What do you think about the Chimera? Do let me know, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.